Crystal Ball College Football. I'm your host, Grayson Grunhafer, and how about we talk about probably the biggest matchup of the weekend, Tennessee taking on Alabama. This game is at Tennessee in Knoxville. This is going to be just a mammoth game in the SEC. You got Alabama, who's coming off of this just crazy survival game against A&M over the weekend. And then on the flip side, Tennessee, who is just literally demolishing teams after what they did to LSU this weekend. I think you got to be sitting there and going, holy cow, this Tennessee team's really good. And, Tennessee's a team I've been high on all year since this offseason. They're a team that for some reason, there was just something about them that I liked. And so far up to this year, they've proven that. They're really good offensively, and they have a great quarterback. And they have a guy who I think him and C.J. Stroud are the two Heisman favorites in Hendon Hooker. I mean, just a fantastic football player and a guy who, at Virginia Tech, he really wasn't that great. And then he comes to Tennessee and he's just lighting the world on fire. So that's been fun to see. And I just think this game is so set up for an absolute thriller. You looked at what happened to Alabama this past weekend. They don't have Bryce Young. They go out there, they throw Jalen Milroe in at quarterback, and he's got to be the guy to lead them to a win over A&M. And this whole team in general, not just Jalen Milroe, did everything they could to lose that game. Missed 2 field goals, had 4 turnovers. Milroe looked like a freshman, and that's fine. He's a guy who I think it's important to note. He's a young guy who, when he got into college, everyone knew he was going to have work to do throwing the football, and that he was a special athlete with just these intangibles that you can't teach. Because what he did at Tompkins over his career there was simply utterly impressive, honestly. I was at a game when he was in high school when he took on Katy. And Katy, it's just, if you don't know, powerhouse in the state of Texas. And they had blown the doors off Tompkins pretty much every year for many, many years. And Jalen Milroe beat them. And it just showed me that, holy cow, this guy's a gamer. And that's the reason why Nick Saban went to him when Bryce Young was hurt. He didn't do that all the time. So Milroe, I think, while you might be disappointed in his effort against A&M, he is a guy that I think in the long run could be a very good quarterback for them, as long as he doesn't get recruited over, which obviously could happen as well. And they survived without Bryce Young. And if Bryce Young played in that game, I'm sorry, if you're an A&M fan, you're losing that game by probably 20, 25 points. I don't think it would have been close. On the flip side, Tennessee went on the road to LSU and, folks, demolished LSU. 40-13. That game wasn't even competitive. I mean, especially once you got to the second half, it was just like, how many points is Tennessee going to score in this game? They were the better team. No surprise. I don't think anyone was sitting there and really thinking that LSU should be ranked at that point in the year. I really don't think that unless you're an LSU fan, I don't think you really thought this was a top 25 team when they played Tennessee. And you for sure don't think they're a top 25 team after what happened to Tennessee in that one. To LSU in that one. Tennessee looked great. And honestly, I think something important to note coming out of these couple games that Tennessee has had to play without Cedric Tillman. If you don't know who Cedric Tillman is, he's one of the best receivers in the SEC and one of the best receivers in the country. He has not played in these recent games for Tennessee, and it has allowed other guys to step up. And that is massive for them. Brew McCoy was awesome against LSU this weekend. He's finally becoming a trusted option in this offense. Jalen Hyatt continues to be an absolute problem. He's very good regardless. But I think for Brew McCoy, this stretch without Tillman has been huge for this team. Because now when Tillman comes back, you have 3 bona fide playmakers at wide receiver that Hendon Hooker trusts. And that's just going to make them even more dynamic. I do think Tillman will be back for this Alabama game. On the flip side, I think Bryce Young will be back for this Tennessee game. I'm excited. This is going to be a lot of fun. You're talking about a Tennessee team that is the number 1 offense in the country with 547 yards per game is what they're averaging. They're second in points at 46.8 points per game. But my kind of biggest takeaway from Tennessee, and the reason I thought Tennessee was going to be good this year, is because of the defense. The strides they've taken defensively. I knew they were going to be good on offense. I think everyone knew they were going to be good offensively with what they had returning, the quarterback play. And Josh Heupel is a great quarterback coach and a great offensive coach. So it was all about defense. And the one thing I mentioned in the offseason was they were top 10 in tackles for loss a year ago. And yet they were in the bottom 30 in sacks. It made no sense to me, and that has completely flipped. This year, they are 22nd in sacks with 14 in 5 games. That's a huge improvement. And then the other huge area of improvement that they've had is they're 11th in run defense. They're only allowing 89 yards rushing per game. That's just one of those stats where you go, man, if Bryce Young doesn't play in this game and it's Jalen Milroe, I don't know if Alabama keeps this game close, to be honest with you, because Tennessee can stop the run, which is all Alabama can do without Bryce Young. They desperately need Bryce Young. Again, I expect Bryce Young to play. Alabama, on the other hand, some areas where they could be at an advantage. 18th in the country in sacks. I think they're better than that, though. I think if you watch Alabama play, the amount of pressure they get on quarterbacks is phenomenal. They are going to make Hendon Hooker work. They're going to make the Tennessee offensive line work. And they're also 8th in run defense. So this whole thing that's working for Tennessee right now with Jabari Small, I don't think that's working in this game. Thus, I think it's really going to come down to what do you see from the quarterbacks and who's better? Hendon Hooker, Bryce Young. Conventional wisdom would tell you Bryce Young's better. I don't think he's better. I think Hendon Hooker's better than Bryce Young this year. I think his weapons are better than Bryce Young's. And I think that Tennessee has a little bit of an edge in that area, especially when you're talking about a Bryce Young who's coming off of an injury. So the question is he 100%? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. You know, both these teams give up some sacks. Both these teams have had, a few miscues along the way. But in general, they're two very good teams. Both, in my eyes, are probably top 8 teams at this time, currently ranked that way. Bama's 3rd, Tennessee is 6th. I think both these teams are very good. Both teams have some flaws. And I think both teams are going to expose each other a little bit in this game. But in general, when you look at the line, Alabama minus 7.5, the over-under 65.5. Alabama's going on the road to Tennessee, a Tennessee team that is playing with all this momentum. And the last time we saw Tennessee play, they destroyed LSU, whereas last time we saw Alabama play, they barely beat A&M. I don't know, guys. I don't know. I'm having a really tough time thinking that Alabama's going to go in there and win this game by more than 7.5 points, by more than a touchdown. I don't see it. Give me Tennessee plus 7.5 points. And how about this? Tennessee is going to beat Alabama on Saturday. And Tennessee's going to beat Alabama, and then they're going to turn right around, and everyone's going to talk about them as the favorite to win the SEC East, and they're going to lose to Georgia later in the year. But that's besides the point. In this matchup right here, I like Tennessee. I think Tennessee's going to cover. I think Tennessee's going to win. And you're going to finally start hearing more noise about Hendon Hooker. Because right now I do feel like he's getting a little disrespected. Everyone's talking about C.J. Stroud as the runaway favorite. And I'm sitting there looking like, have you watched Hendon Hooker play this year? Have you seen the competition that Hendon Hooker's had to play at this point in the year? Currently, he's got 1,432 yards, 10 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. He also has 231 yards and 3 touchdowns on the ground. He's been terrific, and they've played at Pitt, they've played Florida, and they've played at LSU. He's been challenged, and he's stepped up every single time. I think he does it again on Saturday. Take Tennessee to win this game over Bama. That's it for today. I'll have my best bets coming at the end of the week. This is going to be a really fun week of college football. Lots of ranked matchups for the first time in a long time to see this many ranked matchups in one weekend. Be a lot of fun. So stay tuned. Thanks for listening to Crystal Ball College Football.